What you hear in your head is what's written on the page.
Okay, what I'm saying is, the answer to your question in brief, we believe that God is, therefore we are.
Why do you believe
we believe that just as, you know how you said that it's self-evident, or how we said, or I said, or someone said, that it's self-evident that we're rational or sentient beings because we live in it. You could easily make the same argument that it's self-evident that God exists.
Self-evident is a rational concept. How are you using rationality?
What do you mean?
Why are you using rationality?
Because, okay, easy, yeah? Once again, yeah, easy, right, no, thank you very much, yeah? How are we using rationality? If we are built with the autograph of God in it, or the signature of God,
how would you know whether you are or not?
What do you mean?
You don't understand. You don't understand
Okay,
the deep philosophical metaphysical problem you've got.
I don't think
Instead of ignoring it,
how do you know? I think we are facing it head on, but you keep just making this, it's the same line.
No.
But look, I'm just telling you that just as you have, obviously you are assuming, yeah? You are assuming you're a rational, sentient person, otherwise you will not be
haven't listened to me. I said the exact opposite 5 minutes ago.
No, you said if we're having a metaphysical conversation, as a starting point, we must assume.
If you want to have a different conversation, but at the moment we're having a metaphysical conversation,
what does that mean, even?
We're debating the nature of the world, the nature of reality.
So why should it be different? That we have to presuppositions in either a metaphysical conversation or a non-metaphysical conversation.
So having a non-metaphysical conversation, what we do is we have a conversation about some other domain, right? And we have some presuppositions going in.
Why should we have presuppositions?
In order to have the conversation, we've done this. Justice, right? Then when you go into an ethics module, you're expected to question what justice is.
Yeah, that's
right? So in the same conversation we're having here, if you want to have a conversation about reality and rationalism, right? Now let me just finish. If you want to have a conversation about rationalism, you can't assume rationalism. Right, but if you want to have a conversation about the morality in the Quran, then let's just assume rationalism and have a conversation about the morality in the Quran. Because they're just different conversations.
We're not talking about morality now.
I know we're not, but I'm giving you an example too.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. But what we're saying is, you're asking me, you're being skeptical, isn't it?
No, you're being skeptical.
No.
You're not in the same conversation I'm having. I'm not the standard atheist.
I know, but fine. But I haven't finished my sentence.
You're being cynical. I'm actually trying to be
Allow me to
positive.
finish my sentence, yeah? What I was going to say to you, my friend, was...
You asked me the question. You said, you're being cynical, yeah, question mark. And I said, no, I'm not.
Okay, well, maybe we shouldn't be cynical. Just as you
want to be cynical, let's be cynical.
No, let's be cynical. Just as you are cynical of the evidence that's put forward by theists, you should be now cynical in the same way about the philosophical questions that presuppose the reason why you're not a theist. So let's go for the first one. How can you prove, yes, rationality? You can't, fine. Let's move on to the second question.
How can you prove rationality?
Okay, now this is exactly my answer, yeah? Now you can take it, you can leave it, but it's fine. This is my answer. I don't know.
Well, if it's good, then it should stand up, shouldn't it?
I believe that certain things are self-evident, that we're born, we have a natural predisposition to them, yeah? We don't need to...
that makes them true. Just because we have a natural predisposition, you believe that makes them true.
Let me tell you, yeah? Truth is something else for now, yeah? Truth is something else for now. Truth doesn't exist at the moment as I'm speaking to you. I'm just speaking to you about something before truth, because truth has to be defined. Before we talk about sociological constructs like truth, yeah, that must
truth is a sociological construct.
It can be. A truth for one people is a falsehood for another people. Absolutely. It can be sociologically constructed. So before we talk about these things, which can be very sociological and subjective, let's go back. I'm saying to you, as a predisposition, meaning we have a tendency, an intuition, yeah, to do certain things. I say to you, just as we have no tendency, or we realize as a matter of realization that we are sentient, rational creatures, in the same way I believe, from my narrative, and from what I told you about René Descartes, the signature of God, that we are born believing in God, or a higher power. It doesn't need to be the God that's mentioned in the Quran, it doesn't need to be the one that's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, but I'm saying to you that we have an intuition, a tendency to believing that. And I think there is evidence for this. Yeah, and there is evidence for this. As I've said to you,
the question I would have for you is, so you've got that. Let me just if you've got that intuition, how do you know that that's a truthful or a valid intuition?
Okay, it's interesting. Because now we've used the word valid and used the word truthful.
I have, yes.
Okay,
that is true.
So the question is, how do we derive what is valid and what is truthful?
I agree.
Thank you very much. Now we're going the right way.
Can I ask a quick question?
Go ahead, my friend.
Okay, if we're going to rely on, let's say, the René Descartes, why don't we go 2 years forward and we go to John Locke, where he says we're not born with any knowledge, none whatsoever.
I don't want to fast forward to John Locke.
Why not?
Because we're talking about something else, my friend.
No, but you just as your president, you say a philosopher that does believe in a priori knowledge, and he believes in innate knowledge, why not go a couple of about 300 years later?
Okay.
And say, if we're not
I think
saying
there's
that,
I think there's a difference between knowledge and intuition.
yes, you're right there.
Thank you.
You said
That's my answer.
You said knowledge.
So let's take an example of intuition.
So
right?
I've said both, actually. I said knowledge and intuition.
Yeah, I don't care about you.
Okay, knowledge, I would agree with you. In the Quran, it says that.
You can't trust the Quran.
Okay,
Don't bring the Quran in.
No, I'm just saying from my angle.
The whole point of this whole conversation, which you still haven't addressed, is how can you trust what your senses tell you about what the Quran says? You still haven't gone there, and the longer you leave it, the more sure I become you don't have an answer.
Well, you keep saying that I don't have an answer, but
I know, and you keep failing to answer.
After me giving you one. Just as, okay, let me tell you what. Basically, just as you're here standing, having a rational conversation, and as a result of this, I assume that you must take as a prerequisite of that, or a presupposition of that, that you're a rational mind, and you can't prove rationality, but you know it exists, or you assume it exists. I say to you, in the same light, we believe that God exists, and this is something which is a natural predisposition and intuition. It's a feeling that we human beings have, and that is substantiated by the sociological and anthropological evidences.
So, again,
So
how do you get to the Quran? How do you access through your
thank you,
senses
thank you.
the Quran?
That's a different question.
That's the fifth time I've asked you.
But you keep asking questions which you get answers to, but pretend that you didn't.
No, I keep asking the same question and you keep not answering.
Okay, well, have I answered the question? Do you feel like I've answered the question?
about the Quran.
Have I answered the question? Okay, the answer has been given. You can decide to
Quran.
About the Quran. No, the Quran hasn't been. You said not the Quran yet. You just told me not to talk about the Quran.
No, I've asked you five
You have to
times.
talk about God
No.
first before the Quran comes.
I've asked you 5 times.
Yeah.
How can
So,
you trust
the
when
Quran.
you read when you sit down to read the Quran? How can you trust that your senses are giving you a truthful? You're not listening to me. You're waiting to talk. How can you trust that when you sit down to read the Quran, the words that are written on the page are the same words you hear in your head? How can you trust your senses?
Okay, how can we trust the senses? So, going back to the analogy that I gave you, that God is the one, we have an intuition of believing in God. Yeah, we believe that God, as a result of His putting the signature of God in us and whatnot, He has created within us, yes, an understanding of His reality. By definition, if we understand that God exists, then we must be rational.
So you just presuppose rationality.
It's not presupposed. It's proven by, look.
It's proven by what?
Okay, so if you accept the argument, just be with me here.
But you can't do arguments without rationality. Do you not understand the secularity?
No. I'm saying something comes before rationality.
I know you are, but you're just
allow me, yeah? I'm saying that before rationality was God.
How did you get that?
I'm telling you how. God, when He created human beings,
Do you not understand what you're doing? You're just saying God created human beings. You're doing the end of the argument at the start.
we talked about in the beginning, why is it that we forget about the word God? This entity that I described to you before, that you must subscribe to.
Why must I subscribe to it?
If you believe in the inception of the universe, you must subscribe to.
We haven't done rationality. Without rationality, you can't do that deduction.
No, but you can still backtrack.
They do, because they're not shared
Well, they
across
can
religions.
do, but it doesn't- it's not
Let me just do it.
exclusive.
They're not shared across religions. They're specifically
They're not what?
They're not shared across religions. All of them are specifically Islamic.
But what is
Some of these views are specifically Islamic, so they're coming from the Quran.
Was there the signature thing?
What other religions say that?
No, Descartes says it, right?
No, but what other religions?
Actually, many religions. They assume that many religions, Jewish people, for example, would assume that we have a predisposition. A lot of them would. I mean, you can look into it as a matter of a peripheral study or something. What I'm going to say to you, can I just make a point? I think I understand your logical confusion.
Failure. Go on, call it what you think it is.
Allow this conversation to take place so I can describe it. You can tell me. You're saying that, okay, you got rationality here, yeah? Okay. Let me put my petition. You got rationality here, yeah? Now, here's the problem. Here's the problem of philosophy. Rationality cannot be proven unless you use what? Rationality, isn't it? Okay, so just to sort of summarize things. The issue is, you can't prove rationality without using rationality, so it would be circular. So, I've said to you, you've had to presuppose it. Just like we say, because it's self-evident. For me, that's convincing. Anyway,
So to me, that tells me that your religion is based on a presupposition, which is terrifying. That's terrifying that you're going to have.
Allow me to finish. No, you're cutting me off halfway. It's not fair. Because I'm letting you say.
Go on.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, before rationality was given to human beings, there was actually another reality before. That reality we use deduction to find that out. We talked about.
But deduction is rationality.
No, I understand, but it doesn't mean just because we're using deduction here that we can't use our results here to see what's happening here.
You can't use deduction
Why
without
not?
proving rationality.
No, I understand, but hold on. What I'm saying is, if we use any kind of rationality here, now we're saying, okay, hold on. If we're talking about the calamitous logical argument, and that you require rationality to decipher it. Now, you understand that the results are rational or are sound or something. Yeah?
Well, you perceive them to be.
Well, we perceive them to be. Yeah. Now we go back here, and we use a similar kind of reasoning. Why would that be?
That is literally the definition of circular logic.
Okay, no,
that is like
no.
textbook definition of
hold on,
circular
hold on.
logic.
But we're not using this rationality to find
How are you
out.
getting this rationality?
How are we getting this right? Okay. So, going back to Descartes for the 100th time, the idea is that forget Locke for now. I'm saying that let's talk about Descartes.
Forget Locke
That
forever.
we, just as we have been given, rationality, and it's self-evident within us to rationalize things, and that's why we're having a conversation. Let's not be hypocrites.
But again,
because at the end of the day, if you're going to say that you don't believe in
this is what it comes down to.
No,
This is what it comes down
no,
to.
it's not come down to anything. Because if you want to, hold on. What I'm saying to you is, if you're going to have a rational conversation and say I don't believe in rationality, I'm not going to believe you. If you, no, seriously, that's how
This
it
is
is.
how we started. This is how we started.
but-
Is we had this started by us
So
saying.
you accept rationality, and had you not accepted it, you would not be getting into rational discussion.
You're lying about me now. Come on, you promised me you wouldn't corner me. You promised me 3 times you wouldn't corner me like this, and you're distorting everything I've got to say.
What do you mean a corner? I can't have a conversation with people unless I put forward proofs and evidences.
No,
And if
you're
that-
distorting
and if-
what I
and
said
if that
deliberately.
and if that destroys their
Doesn't
argumentation
destroy-
and corners them, it doesn't mean that I have to be quiet now and censor the truth. What I'm saying is,
Okay. Now we're into full argument mode. Okay.
well, I mean, you can call it whatever
See
you
what you
want to
did
call
there.
it.
That's good.
No, I mean, you keep saying, please don't corner me, but I'm saying that.
No, I
can't-
thought we were having a reasonable conversation, but it turns out we're having like a full-scale debate. But
Look, man, look, you could look. I don't
you
wanna
have
make it-
tricked me though. You did promise you wouldn't do this.
In what way?
I think it's on film that you promised me you wouldn't
I
do
don't
this.
promise in
Because
what
you
way.
asked me some questions and you seemed really authentic and like you really wanted to get my opinion.
So, okay,
and I
fine.
said to you, like I'm going to give you some like honest,
What
nuanced
was wrong
answers.
with what I said?
I'm going to give you some honest, nuanced answers on the condition that you're not going to like turn them around and corner me. What you've done is you waited 5 minutes and you started turning them around and cornering me. If had I known that we were going to have this like very serious adversarial conversation, I would have given you much more.
Adversarial, man.
This is very adversarial. You're deliberately as you.
No, look, I don't know why you're. Look, this is what.
I think your
happens.
words were.
This is
I don't
so
know.
unfortunate that when I present evidence to an atheist,
You
that
haven't
they just
presented
say
this.
stop cornering me.
The
It's not fair.
problem is that you.
So you want to
I
have a
think
conversation where I'm not allowed to present evidence? What kind of conversation would that be?
No. The problem is that you're not seriously entering into what I'm saying. You're waiting to speak. Instead of thinking, yes, actually there is a problem with saying self-evident because the whole process of self-evident belief is a totally rational concept.
No.
You cannot. You
There's a
cannot.
difference between rationality and what you derive through experience. There can be you can.
How do you derive? The word derive is a rational word. You keep trying to slip
There's a
rationality
difference
in the background.
Nah, rationality here is not equivalent. It's not actually. It's not an equation. That's my whole argument. Rationality, as you say, is you're using your mind sometimes deductively to come to conclusions. I'm saying to you that when I say to you that it's self-evident, use the word self-evident, that's experiential, which is different to rationality.
Then how can you trust your experience?
How can you trust your experience?
Yes.
Because it was given to, okay, this is a very good question, yeah? So how can you trust your experiences, yeah? We say, as a result of its, and you can use this as probabilistic kind of reasoning, as a result of its utility function and its reliability.
What?
Your experiences, for example, if I don't know, throw a coin 1,000,000 times up and down, you know that gravity is going to pull it down.
How can you trust your experience of it falling in your hand? How can you trust your vision of it falling?
Because it's been done 1,000,000 times before. That's how science
But how
works.
can you trust it number 1 time, or number 2 time, or number 3 time,
how can you
or
trust
number a
your
million times?
experiences?
I agree. How can you trust your experience?
Okay, that if you don't trust your experiences, yeah, that's why I would call it delusion. Yeah.
Okay, so the point is that you are capable of suffering the same delusion that any atheist is.
No, but experiences. The thing is, experience is something which is independent from rationality. You
Okay,
don't.
fine.
So
you still need to
the
take
point
it
is
on.
You don't need to rationalize.
So
You don't need to rationalize your
Muhammad,
experience.
basically, the question I've been going on. This is
see the point?
This is the 7th time I'm asking it. Is how can you trust
Well, you can
that
say
what you
7th time.
is
I'm giving you the
how
answers.
can you trust when you open up the Quran that
Yeah.
the words that you hear in your head are the same words that are written down?
Well,
And well, let me just finish. What you've said is you've said, well, look, I have an experience, and in that experience is I sense things, and those senses are true. So you've basically done a full circular. It's full circularity. You're saying I can just let me get to the end. You're saying I can throw the penny up in the air, and I can watch it come down, and I trust my experience of that penny falling down. You've gone full circular.
This is not fair what you're doing now, because what you've done now is you've
fair about it.
No, I'll tell you why. What I said to you, my argument is as follows, yeah? There's a difference between rationality and experience.
Fine.
Accepted, fine.
Agreed.
Now, okay, having said that, I'm saying that as a first point of reference, we as human beings have experience of a higher power.
And how can you trust that experience?
Okay, now, the thing is, how can you trust the experience is a rational question, which does not need to be posed to an experience.
Why not?
Well, why does it need to be posed?
Because I'm posing it.
No, who cares if you're posing it?
Well, you should care, because you're debating with me.
No.
And if you can't answer it, you're going to look embarrassed.
No, let me say something. What you've done here is you've confused rationality, and you've told me you can't...
No, you asked me if they're different. I said they're different. I agree with you.
Hold on. You have to understand where I'm coming from here, yeah? If you say to me...
You're intellectually committed to religion. I understand where you're coming from.
Listen, look, just stop making claims. It's probably true what you said. Having said that, you're probably very committed to atheism.
No, I'm not. This opened up with me saying I'm willing to hear any argument. The first thing I said to you is I'm willing to hear any argument. Just the arguments I've heard so far aren't convincing. You're talking over me again.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm finished now.
All right, so can I talk?
Of course.
Okay, thank you very much. What I was going to say to you was that, so you've asked me a question which is rational in nature, yes or no?
Yep.
Okay. Now, you've said to me there's a difference between rationality and experience, yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, why do we need to use rational questions to answer questions about experience?
Because we're having a rational debate.
No, sorry, that's not a good enough answer. You don't. The answer is you don't.
Well, I'm trying to have a rational debate.
Okay, prove to me.
So why did you ask me the question if you didn't want to hear my answer?
No, hold on. No.
This is turning into a lecture. You're not actually asking me those questions, are you? You want me to say something, and when I don't say it, you correct me. You don't really care what I've got to say.
Okay,
it's very obvious.
To be honest with you, I actually do care what you have to say. You've said some really interesting things, and especially at the beginning of the conversation, I took so long.
Yeah, before you started being adversarial.
Well, I feel like both of us are being just antagonistic to each other's views.
I agree. But I wasn't being antagonistic earlier.
Okay, maybe we should not make it. So how about from now? Okay, let's try not to make this antagonistic. Yeah.
By all means.
I know it's difficult, but let's me and you both try and eliminate any ego.
I mean, it was when you weren't trying to prove something to me. It was very congenial.
It's difficult for me to have conversations with you, and you tell me the terms of that conversation in that way. Like you can't corner me, you can't disprove me, you can't. In that case, it just becomes a very kind of like platonic conversation, which has very little taste. And what's the point of it, kind of thing?
It's very telling that you see no point in having a conversation where we just learn about each other's views. That tells me a lot about you as a person.
Okay, well, it's just.
I'm happy to have the adversarial version of the conversation.
Look, I want to speak to you.
I agreed 10 minutes, didn't I? I agreed 10 minutes.
That's fine. Let's finish it off. All I want to say to you is this, yeah?
Yeah, I know.
You've got two different things we agreed, because this is important. We said that experience and rationality are two distinct things, which means to say, to conflate the two things, you understand? To conflate the two things would be uncalled for unless you tell me a reason for doing that.
No, I agree with you. Yeah.
Accepted, fine. So if I say to you, if I just say to you this, the reason why I believe in God is because I experience Him, you can't turn around and tell me to rationalize that.
I'm not asking you to rationalize it, I'm asking you to explain why you trust your senses.
Okay, now, so having said that...
But you're ignoring the question.
No, please now. This is the question, the answer now, because you've accepted that experience is different from rationality. I'm saying I experience God.
It's not some killer argument that I accept that.
I experience God, and I experience God. Let's just say I don't need to know. That's the thing. You're asking rational questions. You're asking rational. If you say how do you know it's God, you're asking again a rational question. This is experience. The difference between experience.
You've had some good arguments here, some bad ones. This is one of your worst. I'm not allowed to use rationality against you. This is like this conversation I had 3 weeks ago where I was told I wasn't allowed to attack someone's axiomatic views.
I didn't say that.
No, I definitely am allowed to use rationality against you.
No, I didn't say that. See, now what you're doing, you're a very intelligent person. You're caricaturing
these lies you tell.
No, you're caricaturing my view in order to score points, and I don't want you to do this. Yeah, you know exactly where I'm coming from. You're an intelligent person. Went to King's. You've done physics and philosophy in university. So I don't need to tell you how to be an intelligent person. You already are probably more intelligent than I am. Having said that, I'll give it to you. No issues, man.
I don't agree.
Especially, I don't agree with it. I give it to you. I have no issues. Yeah. What I'm saying to you right now is that if you have experience and you have rationality, there are two distinct things. Okay.
You said that. I don't know why that's so important to you. I've agreed with that like 5 times.
Okay, you agreed. So what I'm saying is that if I experience God, and that's what we believe that we experience God, that He's predisposed to us. Therefore, you don't need to rationalize him. You don't need to rationalize him.
Okay, so when you have a dream, right, and you experience flying in the dream, you have an experience, you have a seemingly authentic experience of flying in the dream. So how do you know, just like, and that experience isn't a truthful experience, you're not really flying, right? Right? So how do you know that your experience of God is not like your experience of flying in your dream?
Okay, but I'm with you. So now you're asking a rational. So that's the thing.
I'm allowed to ask rational questions.
No,
if you're going to ban me from asking rational questions, then I may as well just go home now, which is frankly what I want to do.
Okay, fine, but I'm not banning you from making a rational question. Of course you can. I'm saying that the base of our belief is not. It doesn't necessarily need to be a rational base. It can be an experiential base. From that experiential base, you can make rational arguments.
But how do you trust your experiences? You're again diverting the question. Again, I've given the example. You're in a dream, you have an experience of flying, but you don't fly. How do you know that your experience of God is not like your experience of flying? You're not listening to me, you're waiting to talk.
Sorry, I understand what you're saying, but what I want to say to you is that from this angle, you don't need to rationalize experiences. That's the whole point of it.
So would you agree that your experience of God is as valid as your experience of flying in a dream? Okay. What's the difference between the two?
Okay, the difference will be as follows, yeah? That first of all, consistency. Yeah, consistency.
But that's a rational thing. I thought we weren't allowed to conflate rationality and experience.
Okay, so
consistency is a rational concept.
So fine. Then you can't ask me any question. It's as simple as this. If I say I believe in God, yeah, and I use an experiential reasoning for this, then there's no need for any kind of rationalism. Now,
okay, so in that case, the experience of flying is just as valid as the experience of God. It is.
No, because now what you're doing is you're rationalizing it.
Right, but I'm allowed to rationalize. I've given myself that view. You're the one trying to ban it from me. I'm holding you to your standards. My standards involve rationality.
Okay, so you've got your different standards. So you want to...
Yeah, because you started trying to ban rationality. And then we did have rationality. We did have different standards.
You use phrases that are completely not true. You're saying that I'm trying to ban rationality. The whole point is you're saying, what's that thing? Is it a horse and what? Horse and what's that carriage?
Well,
carriage, yes, horse and carriage, yeah? The whole point of this conversation is that we don't want to put the carriage before the horse, isn't it? We don't want to put the carriage of rationality before the horse of whatever it is that we believe in, yeah? Okay. Isn't that correct, yeah?
I guess that's one way of phrasing it.
So I said to you, how can you prove rationality without using rationality? So you said to me, it's not possible, right? You agreed, you accepted. And you asked me, how can I prove rationality? How can I put the horse? How can I put the carriage before the horse? Yeah, without doing the same thing. You say I'm trapped like you. I say no, because I'm basing my rationality on experience now.
Right, and then the question comes: how can you trust your experience?
So that's a rational question which requires no answer.
What about Muhammad?
Okay, well in that case, let's finish there because that's nice and on film. I'm glad we got that on film.
No,
good work.
I'm happy we got that on film.
Have a good night.